but I am disappointed in the Attorney General. He should not have recused himself almost immediately after he took office. And if he was going to recuse himself, he should have told me prior to taking office, and I would have quite simply picked somebody else. I want the Attorney General to be much tougher on the leaks from intelligence agencies, which are leaking like rarely have they ever leaked before. I told you before, I'm very disappointed with the Attorney General, but we will see what happens. Time will tell. Time will tell.
That's what he said about his guy in public. Donald Trump publicly ridiculing his Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, this summer. Tonight, the New York Times paints a vivid picture of just how Trump treated Jeff Sessions in private. It was back in March when Sessions recused himself because he had his own contact with Russians during the campaign. In May, Trump fired James Comey from the FBI post, leading to the appointment of Robert Mueller, as special counsel. According to the New York Times, the White House received word about Mueller's appointment while Sessions was in the room, prompting President Trump to berate the Attorney General for recusing himself in the first place, calling him an idiot, according to the Times, and asking for his resignation. The Times reports here, quote, ashen and emotional, Mr. Sessions told the president he would quit and sent a resignation letter to the White House, according to 4 people who were told details of the meeting. Mr. Sessions would later tell associates that the demeaning way the president addressed him was the most humiliating experience in decades of public life. Let's talk about this. Joining me now, Michael Crowley, Politico senior foreign affairs correspondent and national security editor, and our friend and former federal prosecutor, Paul Butler. Gentlemen, thank you both for coming on. Michael, what stands out to you? This was obviously volcanic and diminishing and emasculating. What stands out to you?
Well, the human drama, of course, Brian, and the sort of, maybe from a certain perspective, tragedy, or depending on where you stand, the tragic comedy of Jeff Sessions, who went way out on a limb to support Donald Trump, first member of the U.S. Senate, backed Trump at a time when a lot of Republicans didn't want to touch Trump with a 10-foot pole and thought he had no chance of winning. And Sessions, kind of hit the jackpot when Trump wound up vaulting to the White House. Looked like something of a political genius, and in a way, his dreams were coming true. He got this job that he had aspired for decades, and then he's completely humiliated, made a fool of in the Oval Office in front of political colleagues, and now essentially in front of the entire country. So, take your pick. Is it tragedy or tragic comedy, Brian? But the one other thing I would say here that strikes me is the total lack of self-awareness demonstrated by President Trump in this outburst, where he, the special counsel has been appointed. Trump understands this is a disaster. Robert Mueller is obviously going to have a broad mandate to look at all kinds of things. The Russia scandal is metastasizing before his eyes, and now maybe his finances going back to before the election are going to be probed. But this is because he fired James Comey as FBI director, which we all heard Steve Bannon say a few days ago. Even Steve Bannon says was the greatest mistake in modern political history. I mean, that's what this is about, not Jeff Sessions. Donald Trump continues to show no self-awareness about that.
Hey, Paul, I have a short question and a long one. The short one is, do you know of any sensible Washington lawyers who don't agree with the decision by Sessions to recuse himself?
Sessions had to recuse himself because Sessions himself had misled Congress about his own dealings with the Russians. So there's no way that Sessions could objectively lead an investigation about whether the Trump campaign colluded with the Russians. But it's become obvious that the president does not want an objective investigation about collusion.
All right, now let's pick up where Michael left off. If you're Mueller, what's your reaction to reading this kind of play-by-play, kind of pathetic as it is, in the New York Times?
So, again, Trump opened the door to the appointment of Mueller when he fired Director Comey. And so now he's been running scared. And prosecutors like puzzles. So Mueller and his ace team of some of the country's best prosecutors and investigators are wondering, well, why is it that the president is running scared? Well, what is it that he fears about an investigation? And typically, the political line is, I welcome an investigation because that will exonerate me. And so when we see the kind of increasing tentacles of the special counsel, first looking at collusion, then obstruction of justice, real estate, tax, and so forth, again, it's Trump who's telegraphing that there's a there, and this ace team of prosecutors aims to find out what it is.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.